top-ranked crystallographer and internationally well-known in his area of expertise. Again, I welcome you, sir, and we are really grateful you for accepting our request of delivering today's lecture, sharing time for us in your busy schedules too. Each lecture that our speakers are internationally well known and they does not need any introduction. However, for curious participants, we have already uploaded his very short CV on the Science Lecture Series website and Facebook. With these few words, I would like to humbly request Professor Vinay Kumarji, please deliver his talk on technologically important crystals for research and application. Professor Vinay sir, please.
Thank you, Professor Venkateshji. It is my pleasure and I feel honored that you have given me a platform to interact with your students and students of some other universities as well. This positive aspect of this corona pandemic is that we are really able to interact with many more students which are normally not in touch with me, but this is a platform from where I can share my experience, my research, and discuss with you all. So with this word, I hope that this screen is visible to you and all. I will start with...
Sir, can you please hide a small line which is at the center bottom? A hide option is there. Please, can you hide? That is distracting.
What is this?
At the bottom, you will get a line that meetgoogle.com for sharing your screen. Stop sharing and hide. Please hide that line, sir.
Let me try. Where it is coming?
At the bottom of your screen, at the center. Might be possible. Host can able to see and he can hide. No problem. Doesn't matter. So please carry on. So thank you.
Sir,
thank you.
In the presentation, in the bottom, you can see stop sharing. So in the next to stop sharing, there is one small item,
Hide.
like hide. You just click over there.
Just press that one.
Yes.
You,
It is
you
now
click
okay?
on hide. Yes.
Now it is better. Hello.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Yes,
sir.
it's
Thank you.
better.
Please, sir.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay. Actually, these things are not visible to me. I could not see any light, but if it is coming there, then fine. Okay, then. Dear students, I feel that this particular lecture, which I have prepared, keeping in mind that most of the audience is MSc student and maybe few PhD students who are at the beginning of their PhD career. So again, I will repeat one thing that Professor Venkatesh Singh and Professor Budhendra Kumar Singh, I thank you both for giving me this platform. And this lecture will be in 4 or 5 subcategories. In first, I will discuss the basic concept of crystals. There may be very basic things which I will like to discuss. So bear with me if you know few of things of them. Then I will discuss some crystal growth techniques with an emphasis on those method in which we are working. And then characterization techniques are there, of which I will focus mostly on XRD. Then I will introduce the materials, particularly piezoelectric and pyroelectric category. And then after sharing some of my results, I will go to the application of these crystals which we have grown, and we have made some energy harvesting devices and patch antenna for communication devices. In this whole presentation, most of the photographs belong to our own group research work, but few photographs I have taken from internet and books just for elaboration. So I do acknowledge the original source of those photographs. Okay, first thing about crystals, I will try to explain the crystal in society and crystal as normally understood by a common man. That the crystal always has attracted the humankind from different part of the world, from different times, because crystals represent always a brighter part of life, like purity, transparency, brightness, color, strength, etc. Whenever a term crystal comes, uh, we feel that something solid, which is sparkling, which is very colorful. This is true. But in most of the cases, when we grow the crystal in laboratory, which are the real crystals for application, they may not be transparent or colorful or may not be having very good morphology, because once it is cut down, it is of either in terms of pellets or wafers. So, but crystals are, from a scientific point of view, they are important because this is the only form of material which shows anisotropic properties. It has very well defined and better properties as compared to its ceramic or amorphous or thin film form of the same material. And so many applications are there. Many a times we do not understand or we do not know that we are using the crystals in a particular device, but it is a hidden thing and it always works. From the very early civilizations, you can find that crystals happens to be a part of our life across the globe, across the different culture, Roman culture, Egyptian culture, Chinese, Greeks, all of them have been using crystals for one kind of thing or other kind of thing, particularly some spiritual or emotional balancing. Even in India, we have been using crystals from ancient times for medical purposes, for just showing power sometimes. Of course, ornament and jewelries are always there. There are many stories related to a particular crystal, particularly Kohinoor crystals. Uh, Things are moving. So I do not believe I can tell you that many non-scientific things are attached with crystals, which I do not approve. But we should know that how the crystals happens to be with our life. So much so that you can find that even the zodiac signs and months, etc., have been associated with one or other type of crystals. So crystals happens to be within us, with us for many times. Now, what is crystals? When we discuss crystal in our present time, and when we see from the science and physics point of view, crystals is a solid piece of material in which atomic and molecular content is very regular. We can define in so many forms that the naturally grown crystals normally have their faces inclined at a very particular angle. The regularity of the placement of atoms on the lattice side is very regular. There exists a translation vector so that we can move from one point to other point using a combination of A, B, or C value of unit cell, and so on. From energy point of view, this is the always the minimum energy values when a crystal is grown as compared to other form. Now, how the crystals are actually formed? So you see that when the material is in gas form or a liquid form, the atoms or molecules can move randomly. They can collide with each other. They are moving here and there. There is no regular quantifying it. So it can solidify in a way that all the atoms and molecules can freeze at their respective position without following any mathematical or geometrical pattern. you give a conducive atmosphere so that they can occupy the lattice positions, we can have a crystal. So what happens initially, that all these atoms and molecules which are randomly moving, they get closer, join hands with each other, and move apart under various type of forces. But under certain favorable conditions, what happens, few molecules or atoms get together and have a minimum value of radius, or which is called critical radius, so that the disintegration does not take place, and only further accumulation of atom and molecules can take place there, and this way crystal start growing. On the right hand side, I have written the lattice plus basis is your atom or molecule or set of atom and molecules, gives you crystal. There must be a translation vector. I can a little bit explain in the next slides. And then there are unit cell 2 grains formation. Grains mean a small volume in which the regularity is absolutely correct. Then during this all process, we have many factors: thermal, kinetic energy, other forces, surface tension, entropy, enthalpy. So many physical terms of physics come into play, and they have their certain role. We are of course not discussing this thing. I will just explain a little bit what does it mean by nucleation. Nucleation means that this circle means there are so many atoms and molecules inside. So if they attain a certain volume, so that their attractive force is more than the force which is causing disintegration of these atoms and molecules, that is called the crystal start growing either by spiral growth or by two-dimensional layer growth. I will discuss these two aspects in later slides also. Now come to the again crystals. When I will be discussing this thing, I will always take care that many questions which normally MSc student or graduate students do ask, I am answering those questions through my slides. So there is always a confusion: crystal, polycrystal, and amorphous. This left hand side, these dots are atoms or set of molecules. You can see that here there is a regular arrangement of atoms and molecules. So this forms a crystal. Here these atoms and molecules are freezed at their respective position, that is they solidify very quickly, and so this gives you amorphous material. In case of polycrystal material, what happens, you have a small region inside the solid piece in which this type of regularity persists, but there are different pieces of or volumes of the material which within which we have a crystalline properties, but one piece and other piece are differently oriented. This is polycrystal. The same thing is here. You can see that this is the atomic arrangement. This is different portions of this arrangement we are differently oriented, but within this small they are perfectly oriented. Again, amorphous. When we think of crystal, we think of a unit cell first, that is A, B, C axis are there, and then this is a cubic unit cell. So if you stack 1, 2, 3, 4 in all the 2 or 3 directions, you will get the crystal. When we discuss the crystal, we always have something that what is the name, or that is a Miller indices of a plane. So we are having this type of values 1, 1, 1. What does it mean? That if I am going 1, 1, 1 for, we are going to one unit cell in x-axis, and 0, 0 means this is parallel to B and C, and so on. The same thing is here. We have, you must have read it in your graduation or MSc classes, that we have 7 type of crystal classes, and then 14 Bravais lattice. Then there are in one unit cell, you have a primitive cell. P is your blue one, which is this one. Then you have body centered, in which in addition to the corners, you have inside the body one atom. Then you have a face centered, that you have one atom at the face, opposite faces, and so on. And this I have tried to explain a little bit about translation vector, that if you have ABC, that if you start from 1, go to 1, 2, 3, 4 unit cell here, or 3, 4, 5, 6 unit cell there, you will always reach, if I add the third dimension, you will always reach a point where the local atmosphere is same or identical as the original point. Then it is called a translation vector. It happens in the case of crystal. Here also we have small grains. This is one circle is showing the arrangement of atoms, which is perfectly oriented. So even if it is indifferent, this is one crystalline, this is another crystalline. This red is something where two different oriented grains are meeting, so there is some mismatching here. Now, when we discuss that the regularity should persist throughout the volume of the material, so this is very interesting. I am showing you some photographs of some crystals which we have grown in our lab. This is a halide crystals grown by Czochralski method. You see that if I have to define a crystal, what does it mean? That if I start here, each and every atom in this length and in this volume is following the regularity requirement, which is there. So this whole piece can be treated as a single crystal. This is a combination of many single crystals in a flux grown system. You can find that there are so many small, they are 2 to 3 to 4, about 5 millimeter across, one small piece. So this whole piece is not a single crystal, because this portion does not have the same regularity. But if I take out a smaller piece, which is on the right hand side, this one from here, now this is a single crystal. Now come to a ceramic. The ceramic is having so many small grains. This is 5 to 10 micrometer size one. So as a whole, this whole ceramic is definitely not a crystal, it is a polycrystal. But if I take one small piece here, one small piece, so this small piece is a single crystal, because within this small piece, the requirement of regularity of placement of atoms is fulfilled. Now come to third thing. This is a nano particles. It is Giordano nanoparticles. So if I am taking a jumble of nanoparticles, this is again not a single crystal. But if I somehow take one small piece like this, and this is hardly 20 nanometer, this is about 60-70 nanometer. But even if this is small size, this can be treated as a single crystal. So the size of the particle which we are taking as a crystal, it is important that where from one side to other, the single crystal requirement is fulfilled or not. Now, next slide is just to show you and share with you that the crystals are available in nature from the crust of Earth. So many crystals like quartz, this right hand side is the quartz crystal, calcite crystals. They are naturally grown crystals. I have taken this photograph from our geology department of Delhi University. So they are colorful. They are, if I take out one piece, they are very beautiful and they are fulfill all the required conditions of single crystals. Now come to the physics part of the crystals. What I have planned that I will discuss few important words related to crystals, which I feel that my students should understand. First thing is the word defect, which is always associated with a crystal. Many people feel that if a crystal have some defect, whether it makes the crystal useless, and people ask that if your crystal is not defect free, it is not a good crystal. This perception is not correct. Actually, defect do not make the crystal defective. This defect in the crystal is a altogether different meaning from in science. Second is whether it is possible to grow a crystal which is defect free. It is absolutely no. We cannot grow a crystal which is defect free. The only thing that what type of defects are there and how much defect is there. In fact, defects are very useful for a crystal and crystal technology and crystal use, because most of the properties, the growth of the crystal, the color inside a crystal, electric and optical and other properties of the crystals are very critically controlled by the presence of defect. Rather, they are getting enhanced in many more cases. I will just name few of the defects, that is point defect, Frankel defect within the point, then line defects and volume defects. Now, again, one thing that defect is actually somehow helping the growth of crystals, particularly when the crystals are growing by a spiral growth method. The only thing which we have to do is to study, is to control, is to induce the defect in a required form and in a required number. That is possible to make the crystal more useful for your application. For example, the color in a crystal is actually a F center, which is a Frankel defect. When there is a vacancy inside, some other particles are occupying it. It has its own energy levels. A transition between those energy levels can induce the color. For example, if I take a NaCl crystals and put it in Na vapor and heat it, it will get different colors. For another example, that different other crystals become pink and yellow and other green color if we heat them. Next slide is again just to show that if we have some compound like this, so these dopings are actually responsible for the color of the crystals. Now, another term is symmetry. It is very tricky thing, and maybe many our whole classes can be taken on symmetry, but I will just try to correlate the symmetry word with the crystals. You know that crystals is something in which the atoms and molecules are getting repeated, and there is a regular geometrical and mathematical pattern within this. So what does it mean? That if I have a crystal, so if we rotate the crystals in such a way that the initial position and the final positions are identical, then this rotation is a symmetric axis. For example, I will just take this slide. If I take this line and take this part and this part, you can find that these two parts are symmetric with each other. This vertical line is not a symmetric line. In this case, this is not a symmetric line, but this is a symmetric line. For example, you take this one. If I take this horizontal line here, this is the mirror image. So this horizontal line from the center is a mirror type of thing, through which this thing and this lower part are identical with each other. In this case, another line is also possible. If I draw a vertical line from here to here, so this part and this part is again symmetric to each other. This is another example, that if I have a hand like this, if I rotate it like this gives you a symmetry. If I take this hand and put a mirror like this, and so this mirror will be this. So this and this are mirror images of each other. So this horizontal line or the plane is a mirror plane, which is asymmetric. I have included this one. It is a very interesting thing. This is the actual photograph of a plant. I have found that there are different layers, one layer, second layer, third layer, 30, 20 layers, in which these I can probably, now you can find that there are normally means 1 out of 10 or even 1 out of 20. In all the cases, this plant is taking, there are 6 leaves which are coming out from the center all the time. But in very rare case, which I have taken a photograph, you can find there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There are only 5. So while in most of the cases, 19 out of 20, you will always get 6 branches coming out of it. So 6 means 6-fold symmetry it is showing. While this is the 5-1, it is a rare one, but it reminded me another type of symmetry. Of course, 5-fold symmetries are not possible, but quasi-crystals and some type of crystals are there in which even 5-fold symmetries are possible. So now come to another term, which is anisotropy. Very typical of a crystal. What does it mean? It means that a particular property, for example, conductivity, electrical conductivity. If I take a crystal and I measure the electrical conductivity or resistivity in X direction, Y direction, or Z direction, or any other direction, you will find that these properties are different in different directions, which is not there in the case of amorphous. Why? Because in the amorphous, the small grains, very small grains are randomly oriented. So there is no existence of any particular direction. So the material that is amorphous is having same properties in all directions. While in the case of crystals, I have given you some examples. Say, for example, first how to explain this thing. This is a unit cell and you can find the position of atoms in this direction. This is A. While if I move a line from here to here, you will find that two neighboring atoms are at a different distance. In this direction, the neighboring atoms are in different distances. So if we can think of correlating various properties with respect to the position of electrons and ions inside the material, then you can easily see that in the case of crystals, those properties will be different in different directions. Few examples of our work. This is a dielectric constant, and the same crystals has been put inside the measurement system in 3 different directions, and you can find that this dielectric constant is changing from 40 to 80. So what does it mean? For example, even in this is PL, the PL emission line is at different angles of different quality altogether when we are taking it different. This is the same thing. This is a UV VIS photographs in which you can find this is a 70-80% absorption, and here is only less than 10% absorption. It means the optical absorption also depend on direction. Now come to requirement, why we need to grow a crystals. In our first few photographs, I have shown that crystals are available in nature. So why we grow the crystals in actual laboratory? Because the natural crystals are very small in numbers and they are not of so good qualities. So we need to grow crystals in our lab. So how to grow the crystals? The basic thing is that crystal is solid in which all the atoms are fixed at their respective position. So for growing the crystals, what we do, we like to have either gaseous state or a liquid state, that is molten states, when the atoms and molecules are moving randomly. So when we start solidifying from melt to solid or from gas to solid, that is condensation, we create a conducive atmosphere so that all the atoms and molecules can occupy the correct lattice positions to give a crystals. And depending upon from which state we are making crystals, we have 3 general categories, that is solution growth, vapor growth, and melt growth. So in the case of solution growth, we dissolve the material in a solvent and then make a saturated solution. Then there are many ways. Either we slightly heat and make the temperatures little higher than the normal temperature and then reduce the temperature. So what will happen? The crystal will start coming out of the solution. The second thing is that you leave the solution in some petri dish, leave it covered or half covered, and then let the solvent evaporate. So what does it mean? Here also the solute will come out of the solution and you will start getting crystals, something like this. And there are many other versions. For example, we can put it in a constant temperature bath. We can have a rotational technique. and so on. There are SR method in which we grow the crystal with the atoms and molecules coming down due to gravity inside. Now I will just show some of the crystals grown by the solution method. I will not give the names. Thus, there are different crystals of different materials. This is something dye. This is another dye. This is TGS crystals. These are all organic crystals. There are photographs of many more crystals. Now come to crystals growth by melt. So melt means that we are having a molten state of the material. For example, if we have some organic material, this melting point is 100 to 200 degrees Celsius. In the case of oxide crystals, it is 700-800 degrees Celsius. For oxide crystals, halide is 700-800. Oxides are 1200 to 1500 degrees Celsius. Maybe silicon carbide, which is 2500 or 2700 degrees Celsius. So what do we first take the material, melt it somehow after giving, and then solidify it. So depending upon how we make the molten state and how we start to get solidification, we give with the name of different techniques, and all these techniques are different in the way we put the crucible, way we drag the crystals out of the molten state, and so on. So this is the basic thing, and I will concentrate mostly on two techniques. Solution I have a little bit discussed, Czachorowski and flux grown method, in which we are working. So I will this is one slide just to make you familiar with some names. One is Bridgman technique. I will just take few seconds that we take a charge here, material, and then melt it. This red and blue are, this is the furnace. So either we move this ampoule, that is the molten material, or we can move the heater out of it, so that from one point the molten state becomes start getting solidified, and you get a crystal. This is a floating zone method in which we take a rod of material, then create a small molten pass, and then move this molten state from one end to other to get the crystals. This is the flux method. I will explain later on. Czachorowski I will also explain in detail. And this is the traveling zone. This and this are the same thing. This is horizontal, this is vertical. That you create a molten state from one end, and this is the charge. We melt it at one end and move the heater like this. So the molten state is moving. So new solid material is going into the molten part, and from this side, the molten part is getting solidified because the heater is moving, and we get a crystal on this side. Now come to the flux grown technique. What we do in flux grown technique is first to take the material, make a stoichiometric calculation and a specific ratio of different constituent atoms, then mix it, then add a flux. I will explain a little bit what is flux, and then put inside a furnace, which is maybe normally in our case it is 1200, around 1100 to 1400 temperature. Then give a proper temperature profile. I will just show you that if the melting point is 1200, for example, then we heat it up to 1210. Then from 1200 to 1200 to 1150, we give a cooling rate of 1 or 2 degree or 3 degree Kelvin per hour. So it means the melt is getting solidified very slowly, and during this process we get the growth of crystals. This is the photograph of a platinum crucible, because most of these material require a platinum crucible, and these are the crystals which has been grown. We can separate out this crystal like this, and then further processing can take place. This is the same thing, that how you put the material in a platinum crucible. Platinum crucible is inside, this platinum crucible is inside a alumina crucible, and then after growth you get, and these crystals look like this. This is alkali based crystals. whose melting point is 1180 BNKT or NKLN, etc. These are the crystals coming out of it. There are some more crystals. I will just take the name. This particular crystal is a high temperature superconducting crystals whose TC was about 94 Kelvin. This is PZ and PD crystals. This is again NKLN crystal with some doping and Mn doping. This is some more photographs of these crystals which are grown by flux techniques. You can see that during this, so many crystals are grown. This is a very difficult task to take out this material, because in most of the case we have to put this whole crucible inside a liquid nitrogen, HNO3, that is nitric acid, which is heated, and it takes weeks and weeks, 10 days, so that we can dissolve the flux and we can take out these crystals out of it. But these crystals are so strong that nothing happened to it, even if they are inside in a hot concentrated nitric acid. This is another photograph. This is to show that how we have to play with the temperature profile here. This is the growth region, and how we have to reduce the temperature from melting point 1200 to 1150. In total time taken is almost about 8 to 10 days, and so on. Now come to another technique, that is Czochralski technique. Czochralski technique is industrially it is most important, one of the most important technique where most of the technologically important silicon or germanium or laser crystals are grown by this method. This is a huge setup. This is small man standing somewhere here. So the basic principle is that we take the material in a crucible, then put a seed or a rod from top, then pull it, rotate it and pull it, and the crystals will start sticking, and you get the whole crystals. This is our apparatus, and this is the temperature profile for from halide, because it is about 850 or 890. So we have used this system to grow many crystals of oxide material, halide materials. These are the crystals which we have grown. I'm not taking the name. I will just show that how these crystals are used for various applications later on. Then this is one interesting contribution from our lab in last 2-3 years, that for growing organic crystals, this CZ method was never used, but organic crystals are never grown by CZ concept. It is always grown by normally solution method. But we have introduced something, that we have replaced this whole furnace by a simple water bath. It is a beaker and water and something. I'm not explaining this, but with this introduction and with some modification in the whole system, using the whole basic concept of Czochralski method, that we have to rotate the seed and pull the seed from the molten part, we have grown many organic crystals of this kind, which will be used later on. There is only one slide of our work on nanoparticles. Side by side, we are growing so many nanoparticles in our lab. I have included it because for the energy harvesting application, we have used these nanoparticles also. So just to have a feeling that these are the Giordano nanorods of one kind of other kind of doping. These are different morphologies. This is two-dimensional seeds. This is a pencil type of rods. And this is another, this is a sisal plant. This is the real plant, and this is our actual crystals. So you can see that these two are very similar to each other. Now, come to the characterization part. So what do you mean by a characterization? Characterization, I have given a few names. One is physical characterization, that what is morphology, how transparency looks like, what is density, etc. Then growth feature by optical and microscopic technique. Then structural technique by XRD, etc. And then material properties. Material properties means that if a material is a semiconductor, so we are interested in its conductivity. If the material is superconductor, we are interested in transition temperature, whether it is 80 or 85 or 90 Kelvin for high TC superconductor. If it is piezoelectric, then we are interested in having a piezoelectric D33 coefficient and so on. So I will just focus on X-ray and some growth feature. X-rays, you all know that they are electromagnetic waves of wavelength which we are using is 1.54 CUK alpha. How they are produced when we bombard it by some electron beam, we get characteristic and white radiations. For one transition CUK alpha and beta, we get two type of radiation here, and then we use a nickel filter so that we can get a monochromatic light of 1.54 angstrom of CUK alpha. Then comes this Bragg formula. It's very simple formula, 2d sine theta and lambda, but it is so much useful that you can find that Nobel Prize was given, and with the help of this formula, whole crystallography is based on this basic concept, and this is one area which has given maximum number of Nobel Prize, maybe up to 29 from physics, chemistry, biology, and some medical science. But just to study the structure of material, so many prizes are there. Then it comes to different techniques. One is powder technique, that is Debye-Scherrer method. One is rotation method. One is Lave method. And this is one photograph of XRD system from which we get the XRD. So now come to a polycrystal versus crystal. This is very significant, that how you differentiate between a polycrystal or amorphous from a crystal. If I have a polycrystal, polycrystal means so many atoms and so many small grains are available. So at one time, the condition of Bragg condition can be satisfied by a large number of angle and D values. So we get a large number of peaks. But if I put a single crystal in the same powder XRD system with one flat plane, say it is 100, then what we will get? We will get 1, 2, 3 lines, which is all belong to the same family, 100, 200, and so on. This is experimental evidence that in case of biphenyl crystal, we have powder, we have so many peaks, but if we cut the crystal in two specific directions, you get two different single peaks corresponding to this. Now it is a surface feature. So what does it mean by surface feature? If I put the crystal inside within the microscope, whether it is SEM or FESEM or normal optical, we need to find out few features. First is the growth feature. What is the spiral one? That the crystal grow by the spiral technique like this. Then we will get some spirals like this. If the crystal has grown by two-dimensional layer growth like this, one layer over other like this, then we will see the formation of different layers on the surface of the crystals. This is one which I am interested is there are few terms like edge pits, hillocks, overgrowth. So edge pits are something which is due to chemical reaction or some evaporation from other side, we get a dip inside. You can see if a crystal is showing hexagonal symmetry, we will get a hexagonal edge pit. If it is a rhombohedral or trigonal, we will get triangular type of edge pits. This is the hillocks, which is opposite of this edge pits, where the crystals are coming out of the surface. And this is the overgrowth, which means that the crystals are growing, crystallites are growing on the already grown surface. This background is a full crystal, and over it, it is a few microns, while this background is the crystal. Now come to the functional properties for the application point of view. What is functional material? You must have read ferromagnetism, piezoelectricity, ferroelectricity. These type of properties actually change by changing temperature, pressure, and some other atmospheric condition, so that this change in the property can be utilized to produce devices. I will just come to this. Piezoelectricity is something which creates electric energy if I press it, or if I apply a force. Conversely, if I give a electrical charge, it will start vibrating. Like in quartz watches, where a small quartz crystal is given power by a small battery, and it start vibrating, and this vibration can be converted into the time, because the vibration is having a fixed frequency. Then ferroelectricity is PE loop. You all know. I will just come to this one. Should I skip because times are running out? There are few type of materials which show these properties. Particularly this one is a perovskite material in which atoms are here, atoms are on the surfaces, and the one atom is at the center. So if I change A and B by different elements, you can get a superconductor, you can get a different dielectric material, you can get magnetic material, you can get a piezoelectric material, you can get a non-linear optical material, just by changing different atoms at A and B sides. Now come to ferroelectricity. You must be familiar with this PE loop, that is hysteresis loop. This is, if you have not done this PE, then you must be aware of ferromagnetic loop, hysteresis loop in magnetism. This is very similar. In the case of magnet, we have magnetization versus magnetic field. In polarization, it is polarization vector, that is polarization versus electric field. And how this is important for us? You see that if I am in this stage, so this perovskite is having a polarization which vector is upward. In this case, this vector is downward. What does it mean? That in a P loop, ferroelectric loop, the material exists in two states. One is up polarization, one is down polarization. And all the application of digital type of thing, either a computer or many things, we require only two states, 0 state and 1 state. And 0 and 1 state is here equivalent of two direction of polarization. So if polarization can be flipped up and down, it means the system can be used for all digital applications. Second thing, that here is stored here. So this charge stored can be used for the storage devices. I'm skipping. One is this one. Okay, I will just show this thing also. That you can see that there are different materials show different values of polarization. Although the nature of curves are more or less same. Here for ZNO it is 0.01, while here it is 80, almost 10,000 times more polarization in this material, which is PM and PT, as compared to ZNO. This is a TGS organic material where it is 1.5 to 2. Now come to piezoelectricity. Piezoelectricity is the material where you get, you apply a force, you get electricity as an output. You give a input of electric voltage and you get vibration. So you can use it as a generator, and you can use as a all vibrating, where this vibration can be used for other applications. There is a relation that in a piezoelectric material, you need higher value of piezoelectric charge coefficient. What does it mean? That if you give a particular field of force, then how much charge is developed? Higher the charge developed, better is the material for piezoelectric applications. There are few applications in daily life. For example, this is a lighter. You apply a pressure, tick tick, and there is a you apply a certain force on a piezoelectric material. Charge developed, and this charge is sufficient enough to give a small spark, which is used for lighting. This is a AFM tip, which works on piezoelectric concept, because surface is rough, and if you place your tip over it, So because of this up and down, you apply different force here, and this electrical energy can be used to study the surface of the material. So we have grown many crystals, and which D33 are very high. Normally for quartz it is 1 or 2. For PZT, which is very important material, is hardly 400. We have grown many crystal PM and PT particularly, in which this value is over 2000. So many material which we have used, we are growing the material for crystals and use it for the piezoelectric application. Now come to the application part quickly. Now, I will discuss two applications. One is pressure sensor, that is energy harvesting, and one for patch antenna for gigahertz communication applications. In all these devices, we have used the crystal which are grown in our own lab. For example, this is one to demonstrate that here is a small crystal within this. This is simple tapping key we use in MFE lab or BSc lab or even school. So if I just tap it here, press it, you can see that this is 68 millivolt out of this. So because of this just demonstrate few of them. What we do, we take the material. Normally we can put a crystal as such and just hammer it with some hammer, or just by finger tapping also. Smaller the force, higher the output is actually desired. So actually we have used our finger to tap it, and you can see that if we have a ceramic, PM and PT ceramic, this voltage is going up to 13-14 volts. It is an open circuit voltage. And when we put the same material in the crystal form, so voltage up to 50 can be generated just by doing nothing. I'm just putting my finger on the material and we are getting electricity. Amazing. No battery, no other source of light is electricity is required. And what is the inside is these things is actually we have make a tape out of it. We crush the material in a powder form, then PDMS, and there are so many organic solvent in which we just mix it and make a thick tape out of it. And there are some PTO and ITOs, PET substrate, etc. And we make a device something like this, which gives you the similar thing. Now, this is the one to apply force. We can put a force by hand also. This is something which do tuck, 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 tuck like this. We can change the force and we can change the frequency of application as well. So put your material here, with device here, and you can get the output on your CRO. You can store it. Then we can change the force. We can change the force 0.4 to 0.1.2, and you can see the voltage, output voltage is increasing. We can do many more things. We have a combination of main piezoelectric particles with organic material, and with this we can change the output voltage. This is very interesting, that how many times we can stick, we can strike, we can apply a force. So we can apply force up to even many thousand times, 4,000, 5,000 times, and we find in our screen only up to 700 can be captured in one go. So you can find this output voltage is almost constant throughout. You can see a highlight in a hands figure here, and this is one. So that it means that even up to many thousand times of application of force, our output voltage remains unchanged. Second application, in few minutes time I will just explain that this is a patch antenna. This is for gigahertz applications. You are aware that nowadays many work on mobile communication, wire communication, one-to-one secret communication between two areas of army, for example. Then Bluetooth, all are coming this 3G to 4G, all are coming. You can find out this is 3G. Now we are in 3G to 4G. What does it mean? We are playing with different frequency range. Then this is most important, that if I have to secret communication between two groups, we have to use this gigahertz frequency. So for this, we have to create this frequency, and we have to use this frequency. You have to use this frequency for applications. Now, I will just take few minutes that how we use it and how we, this is how to develop a device. This is the device which we have developed. Here is this white color is our crystal, and is this something? One moment, please. So this is a whole construction. We have to take a particular shape and size and dimensions of the crystals, put it into between the pads. That is a copper plate. This is the base is also copper. So this whole thing is a patch antenna, which can be fabricated for a particular frequencies. And important parameters are there, that we have S11, S121 parameters, that waves are coming, getting reflected at one end. So what is the properties before entering into the system network, and what is the property when it is coming out of the network or reflected back? These things can be analyzed using a vector analyzer. And this is the diagram that we have used this crystal. This is the simulated one. Simulation means that before using the crystals for a particular thing, we have to fix up the frequency for which we are working. We need to work. So here in this particular case, 6.5 gigahertz is the simulated value, and we have got about 7 gigahertz as a real experimental output values of the signal which we can create using this patch antenna. So it is very close, and the slight difference is there because we are using our handmade instrument and cutting the tools, cutting the crystals, putting the patch. So there may be slight difference, and so on. This is another example that we have. This is actually 12.6, 11.6. Here is a small mistake. 11.6 was there, and here is the 12. Then we can make the whole system in a double band patch antenna. That is, on the same set of device, we can have two different values of frequencies which can be generated. And you see that all these frequencies can be used for various applications. Now, thank you very much for listening me. And I wish to thank all my PhD students whose work has been used by me now. Then there are many DST, DRDO or UGC project which I was having with me, so that all these work of many past year was possible. Finally, I welcome you all to our crystal lab. If you want to do some crystal growth work in our lab, or many characterizations and any other help, if you want to just visit our lab and see the apparatus, you are most welcome. Finally, take care and stay safe. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Very informative, from basic to technology and from applications. Now our participant and student can understand the importance of crystals in their life and in their society. So one very humble request, sir, we have received a seed from your lab in our university, and with your support, we can expect nucleation at our Central University of South Bihar pretty soon, so that our faculty, Dr. Budhendra Kumar Singh, can establish and develop crystals not only for the research purpose, when nowadays a very huge demand for the commercial purpose. So with these words, I would again thank you, sir. And I will request Dr. Budhendra, please, if you have a questions from our student side and participant side, please ask.
Thank you, sir.
One
Dr.
question,
Budhendra.
coming from-
Yeah, thank you, sir. So, sir, I first request you to minimize this OBS screen. I think there are many pictures coming at the same time. Maybe you can switch to the Google Meet.
Should I go again to my first slide and
Yeah.
stick
Yes, maybe.
new presenting? Share now. It is not coming. Okay, I will.
Okay, no problem, sir. I will one by one ask the questions which is raised by the students. There are few questions.
Yes.
Okay. There is one question may not be very much relevant, but one student from our university, Arzel, he would like to ask if we desire for piezoelectricity with lesser force per output, then won't the material become spontaneously piezoelectric at some point? Would it be problematic or beneficial?
Yeah, actually, this is a very good question. Actually, he wants that if we have very feeble force, for example, force generated by heartbeat, for example, whether a piezoelectric material can produce sufficient energy to be used. I suppose this is the question. So this is actually the main task of all researcher, that you develop a material with higher and higher value of piezoelectric constants, coefficient, that is G33. And I can tell you that few material, I can take the name. For example, quartz material, which is very popularly known, is having 1 to 2 picocoulomb per Newton. Next one is, say, some organic material like TGS, which has 5 to 10 picocoulomb per Newton. Then comes PZT. It is an important material which is very widely used. It is about 400 picocoulomb per Newton. And the material like PZ and PT or PM and PT, which we are growing as a crystals, it has 1500 to 2000 picocoulomb per Newton. So if you are a material which has very high D33 value, that is high value of electric output with small value of force, that is most desirable.
Right.
That's why we need a material with a very enhanced piezoelectric properties. Fine.
Okay, sir.
Hello, sir. This is Tarsam from SSN, Chennai.
There is one more question from Gaurav Gupta. He would like to ask, when we press material with finger, the charge developed might be because of charge present on the finger. Any comment?
Yeah. When there are many disturbing things which may come into and interfere with your main output, but when we actually go for the measurement and we go for the application, we take care to remove or eliminate any other sources of energy which might come into. But his doubt is correct. For example, I can extend this thing to some other thing also. For example, I have shown PE loop. So normally PE loop is a polarization versus electric field. But the total polarization which we observe is not the polarization only because of the hysteresis nature. There are some other regions, for example, which is called true polarization. There are some other regions, for example, leakage current, capacitive effect, etc., which has its own polarization, and this which is not desirable. So this polarization is added to the polarization we want. So there are techniques like Pund technique or logic technique, through which we can remove the undesired part which is not switchable. So in all many other type of measurements, the main required thing is always added with something which is undesired or unwanted. So the application and the real scientists take care of these things to nullify the things which is not correct and which is adding to your required properties. So this is true in the case of piezoelectric also. Fine.
Hello, sir.
Like-
Hear me?
Yeah.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi, sir. This is Karaswamy from SSN, Chennai. So I have few doubts from you. Hello, sir.
Yes, I'm listening.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So first question is, so you mentioned to decide the quantity of defect during the growth. So
Yes,
how to
yeah.
decide defect during the crystal? How to decide the defect?
Yeah, I suppose that you are the one who are actually growing the crystals also. I will give one example. When you want to grow a crystal by solution method, which water you would like to prefer, a tap water or a double distilled water?
Double distilled water. Double.
No.
Just
We want tap water because inside the tap water there are, of course, invisible, but there are some particles which helps in developing nucleation inside the solution. This is one. Second thing, if if the crystals are growing through spiral growth, so the center of this spiral, from where the nucleation starts, a dislocation line is which is getting terminated at the point of the center of the spiral is used to develop the crystal through the spiral. In this sense, I'm saying that the defects are or impurities are helpful in growing the crystal.
okay. So one more question, sir.
Yeah.
You mentioned translation horizontal furnace. Translation. I think horizontal furnace. Horizontal
Please,
furnace.
excuse me, please speak with a little speed. Your words are overlapping.
Please
okay.
write your question in the chat box. It will be better if we present the questions from the host side. Otherwise, it will be a
Okay.
long discussion.
Okay, so okay. So horizontal furnace, you mentioned it. So how to grow? Because the vertical furnace, the interface is taken, so there is no problem. Gravitatically down or upwards, we can to grow. But if you go horizontal furnace, cannot control the interface. Very difficult to interface. So how to handle it, sir?
Are you asking that in the case of
Horizontal
SR
furnace.
method,
Yes,
SR
yes.
method, there is no interface?
No, not yes.
Yeah, of course.
Not yes, sir. You mentioned melt growth. Horizontal furnace, you mentioned it. Horizontal
Yeah,
furnace.
For organic crystals or for halides?
No, it's mentioned generally.
Now put your question again.
So in vertical bridging technique, so you can grow the crystal to control the interface. If you go horizontal, so the melt, if you do melting, there is some viscous. So how to control the interface, sir?
Now I got it.
Yes.
In the case of horizontal zone refining technique, the interface on in my figure, the interface on the left hand side where the solidification is taking place is a real challenge, and there are many ways to make this interface flat and horizontal. One method is to use another heater on the behind the main heater. The main heater is slightly higher than melting point. If, for example, in the case of PbI2 crystals, the melting point is 410. So your main melting zone is created by the main heater. Then it is going in this direction. So place another heater And this temperature is about 200 or 250. And by setting the temperature and by making this distance, you can create a temperature profile at the solidifying surface, solid liquid to solid, when it is getting crystallized, in such a way that that interface is more and more flat. This is the way we do. You have seen many ways in some other labs where this zone refining method is used for silicon crystals, that there are 3 to 4 heaters all moving in the same direction, and they are playing with the temperatures of the second and third heaters, so that the interface is better, flatter, and the melt zone is smaller. Fine.
Yes, sir. Nice, sir. Nice, sir. So one more question, last question. So what is the difference between helix and aspect, sir? What's the difference between helix and so how to distinguish, how to calculate it?
Please repeat. I am not listening you. There was some other sound.
I request you to kindly mail the question to Professor Vinay Kumar.
Okay, you can mail the question to me. I will definitely answer. Huh?
Okay.
I will chat with you, sir.
Yeah. There is one more question, sir, from Sumit. He is asking, what are the importance of modified CJ technique over the conventional CJ technique?
Oh yeah, you see the conventional Czochralski method. It is a most important technique, and it is say 80-90% of the whole crystals of silicon, BGO, that is laser rods, are actually come out from the Czochralski method. What does it mean? That the Czochralski method is known for growing a crystals whose melting point is above 800, 900 up to 2000, because we use a very good quality furnace, induction furnace or resistive furnace. So we require a very specific type of temperature gradient at the melt and solid interface. When we use the same furnace, and this technique is never been used, and no one has thought of using this technique to grow organic crystals whose melting point is 50 degrees Celsius or 120 degrees Celsius. So if I use the same furnace and use the same system, then we have tried number of times, and we found that the crystals cannot be grown by the same furnace which is meant for 800, 900 or 1500 degrees Celsius. So what to do? So what we have done, we have used a small beaker with a water bath and used the same pulling and rotational system. So with this, we are able to grow the crystals which is 8 to 9 centimeter length and very good quality. So what does it mean? That if I grow the crystals, organic crystal, by solution method, we will get a crystal which is 2 to 3 or 4 or 5 millimeter, normally 1 to 2 centimeter size, which can be grown as a cylindrical shape so that we can take out the wafers. So this is the importance. Second thing, that in the solution method, there are many materials which cannot be grown by solution method. Why? Because we do not have the corresponding suitable solvent. Sometimes we have to use a benzene or amyl acetate or some other solvent, but those solvents evaporate very fast, and there are some other problems, because of which many organic material cannot be grown as a crystal, or even if they are grown as a crystal, reported the crystals grown is even less than 1 millimeter size and takes month and month to grow. While if I use the same material to grow crystals by a modified crystal system, in which I can melt the material and grow in 2 to 3 days time. So this is the advantage. Third thing, that in India, a large number of crystal growers are working in organic material, and they are compelled to grow by solution technique, because CJ techniques with all these infrastructure are very costly. But if we use the thing which I have used in a modified crystal, you can make the system I mean growth chamber in few thousand rupees. And if you can develop some puller or rotator in few thousand rupees from the local vendor also, instead of going to 1 crore to 5-6 crore rupees system, you can develop a system with very small amount of money, with very small amount of expertise, I mean experimental expertise. You can make a system and you grow the crystals which are very important for application. They are equally good for application. So this is the whole use of modified CZ method.
Okay, so thank you, sir. Udainji, if any questions left, so
Yes, sir.
just
One more
mail
question.
to the sir and he will reply, and you can pass the whole answer to the participants.
Okay.
So if you wish, you can give the vote of thanks. Udainji.
You can proceed, sir.
Okay, so I would like to thank all the participants who participated in this science lecture series. Thank you for coming and listening our very learned speaker. And I would like to thank our speaker, Professor Binay Kumarji, for sharing your time and delivering a very informative lecture. Thank you, sir. Thank you for coming. And I would also like to thank our science lecture series team and whole coordinator and secretary, Dr. Budhendra Kumarji, Dr. Vijay Kumar Singh, and our secretaries, Puneet Misra, Lakhvinder Singh, Akhilanand ji, and Nitin Chandra, and too many others are behind the curtain. So thank you everyone for cooperating and participating in this. Thank you, sir. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much.
See you next time. Thank you, sir.
Okay. One thing,
Sir.
yeah, if